Hi guys, welcome to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Kyra, and here on my channel, we are all about real makeup for real life and real people. If you are new here, a very special welcome to you. I hope you'll consider subscribing before you leave if you like what you see today. It will help you find my videos more easily on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday when I upload. And allegedly, if you ring that notification bell to all, YouTube will let you know when that happens. So today's video is going to be talking about some of my 2019 favorites and where they are today. Am I still using them? Am I still repurchasing them? Do I like them? Do I use them? I have seen quite a few people do this video, but I believe the most recent one that I have watched was from Kelly Gooch, so I'll have that link down in my description box below. If you're new to my channel, I do a series every month called Month in Review, where I talk about some top products from the month, anything that was failing me, some shenanigans in between, and that is where these products have come from today. That's how I'm reminded of what was my favorite last year. So in January, I had two favorites that I want to talk about. The first one is the Marc Jacobs Le Marc Creme lipstick in the shade Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. This is still one of the most luxurious lipsticks that I own in my collection. It's such a pretty shade. Sometimes it looks more red, sometimes it looks more pink. It really just depends on what you pair it with. This was a beautiful gift from my friend Angela over at Beauty by Angela, and I do still love this lipstick. I do get use out of it, and it just gives me great joy to have this little fancy magnetic closure, all of the things. It's just a really beautiful color. I think I probably reached for this the most in the springtime and early summer, but it is a classic shade. I think that could be worn at any time. I think it would look beautiful with the look that I have on today. And so yeah, she's still around. She's still being used and loved on today. And then the other product that I had as a favorite in January of 2019, almost 2 years ago, is the Clinique Cheek Pop in the shade Fig Pop. I still love this. My flower is definitely being worn away in here. And it's just that perfect sort of sunburny terracotta yumminess. It's definitely a fig shade, but if you're not familiar with what a fig looks like, that might not mean anything to you. So I would say that this is a beautiful terracotta shade, very flattering to my skin tone, very similar to the shade that I flush naturally. So I do love this. I love this formula from Clinique. It is very firmly pressed, but not hard to pick up on the brush or anything like that. And this is just a beautiful sun-kissed natural flush for my skin tone, so I still reach for this one quite a bit. So in February, I had two favorites, one of which I still have and am using, and the other which has been decluttered, so I'll put a picture up for you. The first product is the Mario Badescu facial spray with orange blossom, aloe, and sage, I believe. I have decanted it into another bottle where I prefer the mister on this one. I absolutely adore the smell of this, but I also just like the simplicity of the Mario Badescu facial sprays. It's just something that's very straightforward in terms of spraying on the face, either to refresh as a prep before makeup or as a means of settling down the powders and melting everything together on the face. I also really like this one as a spray to wet brushes when applying eyeshadows. If I want to foil them more or avoid fallout, this spray works beautifully. However, the other product that I had in my favorites for February 2019 was the Wet n Wild MegaGlo highlight in the shade Blossom Glow. I believe I passed this on to my daughter actually. And it is a beautiful highlighter. It's pink, it's icy, it's like a baked gelée formula and all of that, and it is nice. I just have other highlighters that I prefer now. I'm not as into that icy highlight, and specifically not an icy pink highlight, because I have a very warm skin tone, as you might be able to tell. So it just kind of looks weird on my skin. And like I said, I have other highlights I prefer. The one pink highlight in my collection that I can think of specifically that I do still like to use is from the Samantha March and Ofra collaboration. It was originally the at March Beauty Word highlight. It's now the Start Inspired highlight. Either way it goes, I have that one. That's the only pinky highlight that I need. So I did declutter the one from Wet n Wild. Coming up in March is another 2 products that I no longer have. One I finished and the other I decluttered. I used to, in my monthly roundup video, pick a palette every month that I enjoyed using the most over that month. And that month it happened to be the Rimmel Magnifies Jewel Rocks edition. I really still love that color story. It's really beautiful, but I had a problem with that one, as I do with actually quite a lot of more drugstore or inexpensive eyeshadow formulas, and that is that they just didn't last on my eyes. Within 3 or 4 hours, you couldn't tell what I had on my eyes whatsoever, even though the color story was beautiful and brilliant. And so I did ultimately choose to let that palette go to a new home. And then the second product was the Tarte Shape Tape, but not as a concealer under my eyes. I did in fact use that product up completely as a foundation, and it worked really well. I actually really enjoyed it as a foundation, and that was how I worded it in my favorites video. So I did ultimately use that one completely up. Coming up in April, I had one makeup product that I counted as a favorite, and I actually very much count this as a favorite today. And that is my NYX Microbrow, is that what it is? Microbrow pencil in the shade Ash Brown. This is a brand new one in the box that I have on standby when I finish up another brow pencil that I'm working on, but this is definitely my ride or die eyebrow pencil. It's just stiff enough, waxy enough, that it works beautifully. I don't have to be super careful when I'm trying to fill my brows in with more of a, hair-like stroke. It's not too soft. And so I really like it for that. I also really like the ash brown color, which is kind of shown on the end here, because my hair, while my skin is very warm tone and I do have warmer, just natural highlighting in my hair is very cool toned, and my brows especially are cool toned. So a lot of pencils look kind of funky in my eyebrows because they're warmer than the rest of my hair. So I do love this one. I like the little spoolie on it. I like everything about this. I've been through countless pencils of this kind, and I will continue to use it. Coming up in May is an interesting product. It was the Dr. Brandt Luminizer Primer, and I had received this quite a long time ago from BoxyCharm. In fact, I think it was my first BoxyCharm that I received this primer. It's a nice primer. I liked it better than I liked the Becca backlight filter, the really glowy one. But overall, I just didn't feel like it was necessary. I always have sort of a healthy glow to my skin as a result of my skincare, so I really didn't feel like I needed that primer to do that. But at the time that I had this as a favorite, number one, I was trying to use it up. I don't remember if it was officially in a project pan or not, but I was trying to use it up, and I was on a 7-month no-buy last year. So a lot of these things you'll see here are things that I already had in my collection. They were not, in fact, most of these were not new products to me at the time. So this product, definitely not a favorite. I ultimately ended up decluttering it, the last bit of it, because I was just so over trying to use it up and just using a product that wasn't necessary in my everyday routine. In July, I believe that's when I had ended my no buy, and one of the first things that I purchased was the Physicians Formula Murumuru Butter Blush, and this is in the shade Saucy Mauve. Emily Noel made me buy this, and it is a beautiful, beautiful blush. Very, very glowy, somewhat nude, but it definitely has that mauve tone to it. Smells, of course, like heaven. However, glowy blush in general is a bit tricky for me to apply. I find that sometimes when I try to build them up to get that blushy look that I really love, I end up with too much of the glowy blush, and it really emphasizes the texture and the pores and things like that on my skin. But it has sort of steered me away a little bit from certain glowy blushes. And also the fact that I have, I don't even know how many blushes, over 50 for sure at this point in time, and that's not including face palettes. This one has just sort of fallen by the wayside. It's still a beautiful blush, but I wouldn't say it's a favorite anymore necessarily, but I like it enough to keep it in my collection. All right, then in August, I went ahead and picked up the e.l.f. Poreless Putty Primer. I do like this primer. I don't know how I feel about this one versus the Tatcha, because I do have the Tatcha Silk Canvas. In fact, I am wearing the Tatcha one today. I actually think this one's better for my skin for more seasons, maybe more weather, than the Tatcha one, because the Tatcha one is more hydrating in my opinion. But I do really like this actually, and I went so far as this year purchasing the matte Poreless Putty Primer, and I like that one even better, obviously, especially for the warmer months when I am more oily than I am now in the depths of winter. But this is still a really great primer. I don't know that I would call it a favorite, but it's not going anywhere either. The other two products that I picked up in August, or that were, I should say, were favorites in August of last year, are the L'Oreal Liquid Lips. I'll put the actual name on the screen because I can't ever remember it, and it's not on the packaging anywhere, which is actually kind of frustrating because it's a weird name. But the L'Oreal Liquid Lipsticks, they're more of a stain, and they're very, very thin. And when I mean stain, this color specifically, which is I Represent, and then this is I Choose, this one particularly will stain your lips for days unless you take like an oil and a lip scrub and all of that. And I think that's great. I mean, who doesn't want that maybe during COVID right now, because there's not anything actually, you know, there's very little topically on top of the lips. It's more of a stain, and it absorbs and settles into your lips. I do like the formula. However, I have not reached for these at all in 2020. I loved the colors, but this brighter one is actually the one that I'm more attracted to, but pain in the butt to get off. Kind of like the Maybelline Superstay Matte Ink liquid lipsticks. Love those. Love the longevity. Really dislike the process of getting them off of my lips. But again, these are not going anywhere. I do like having them. I do think I will probably reach for them at some point. I don't know. We'll find out in 2021 when I do a declutter series again. All right, lastly, in September, I had 3 favorites, and they are all wonderful. Firstly, I had the e.l.f. Primer Infused Blush in the shade Always Rosy. One thing that stands out about these to me, besides the fact that they are long lasting because they are quote unquote primer infused, is these are really smooth, like very, very smooth to the touch, finely milled. I don't know what kind of magic is in here other than some kind of primer. These are supposed to be very reminiscent of the Buxom sort of primer infused blushes. Love this shade. It's a very classic shade, very similar to what I have on my cheeks today, which is ColourPop Between the Sheets. but I do love having this one. I did have two of them. I had like the very light peachy one, but that one was just so light on my skin. It really wasn't flattering. It always kind of looked ashy and chalky and dry, whereas this one is just beautiful. And then, speaking of the Samantha March highlighter, this was a favorite last September, and it is still a favorite for me. Like I said, this is kind of my only pinky highlight in my collection, but this is also like my go-to blinding highlight in my collection when I really, really want that strong glow, whether it's because I'm going glam or just feeling festive or whatever the case. This is the go-to blinding highlight in my collection, and I still love it. I love the versatility that you have two little slivers of Star Island and two slivers of Pillow Talk. So you have the pink and you have the ivory in here, but when you mix them together, it's even better because it makes the perfect sort of nude blinding highlight. And last, but certainly not least, the palette of the month in September of 2019 was ColourPop and Kathleen Light's Dream Street palette, and it's definitely still a favorite. Some of my favorite shades in my collection reside in this palette. First of all, this shade Shooting Star right here is my ultimate favorite, best transition shade. It's warm, but not too warm. It has a tinge of yellow, so it actually looks really nice on my warmer skin tone, as well as this shade right here called Elfish, one of my favorite deep browns in my collection. It has like a touch of burgundy or plum to it. Might be kind of hard to pick up on camera, but love, love, love this deep brown. I mean, there isn't a shade in here that I don't like at all. I love this palette. I wish they would bring it back. I know so many people, and I hear your cries that some people missed out on it. I feel that way about the ColourPop Good Sport palette that I missed out on, but I know a lot of you feel like you missed out on this palette, and I really wish that ColourPop would bring it back, but alas, this is definitely still a favorite in my collection. These are just some of my favorites from 2019 that either are or aren't still favorites or even in my collection at all. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, I would really, really appreciate if you could give it a thumbs up down below. That really helps me out here on the platform. And I hope all of your makeup days are absolutely beautiful favorite makeup days. And I'll see you in my next video on Saturday.